All right, ladies and gentlemen, how the hell is everybody today? I am the one and only Chronic Chris of AsgardRadio.com, and today we are chatting with Stuart from the band Blitz out of the UK. So, where exactly in the UK are you guys at?
We're based in Nottingham. Robin Hood and Sherwood Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Costner and yeah, we're based in Nottingham, and yeah, it's a nice, quaint town, Nottingham. Yeah, lots of
Okay.
greenery.
Oh, I can only imagine from the stories.
Yeah, it's quite a cool place. There's quite a lot of rock rock venues. There's a place called Rock City in Nottingham that's quite how can I put it? When the three of us were growing up, we'd go to Rock City to see, Guns N' Roses played there. Um, Lots of the big bands kind of played there. Glenn Hughes did his last tour there. Lots of bands. Anybody who's coming through plays Rock City, and that's where we kind of the three of us went to see bands and kind of learned our trade really.
Awesome. So, man, I'm sorry, I can't get my head away from because you're. I mean, I've talked to people from all over Manchester, Gloucestershire, straight up
Yeah,
all different parts of London, but never anyone from Nottingham. And I've always had an interest of Robin Hood, even before the Kevin Costner movie.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, and I know it's loosely based on a true person.
It's like a local legend about a guy he was a bit what we'd call dodgy. He was a bit of an outlaw, a bit like one of the old cowboys. He was an out. He's a bit of a outlaw character, and he stole from the rich, and he apparently gave to the poor. How true that bit is, I don't know. And there's a tree called the Great Oak. And one of the legends is that Robin Hood hid when he was hiding from the law, the sheriff of Nottingham. When he was hiding from the sheriff of Nottingham, he hid in this big old tree called the Great Oak. And if you're ever in the UK and you come to Nottingham, go and see the Great Oak. It's still there. It's still there. It's like held up now with all these big supports and everything, but it's
All right.
still there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And
cool. That's
we've also got Nottingham Castle. That's still there. And the oldest pub in England, which is a place called the Jerusalem, which is meant to be the oldest pub in in the UK.
oh wow, awesome.
There you
So
go, little bit of history for you.
let's say a lot of history around there. Well, a lot of history around the UK period. Um, so how did Blitz get started?
How it all started was there's a rehearsal room in Nottingham which was called Magnet, and our guitar player Kevin Simpson, he actually worked there. He'd be booking the bands in, and taking the money and setting the rooms up. And I happened to notice he had on his arm he had a big Ace from, if you remember, the '78 Ace Frehley solo album, the cover, which is just like
Okay.
his face. He had this big Ace Frehley tattoo on his arm, and I said, "Man, when I was a kid, Kiss were one of the bands when I was 14 that I think they were a band that got everybody playing, because they looked like comic book heroes." So I said,
The
I was a
one
big
army
Kiss fan.
that's unified worldwide.
Yeah, yeah. So I said, "Oh, big Kiss fan," and he said, Cheap Trick. I love Cheap Trick and things like that. At the time, I was in a band, and he was in a band, and we started talking about the music scene and how we wanted to get back to the kind of music that made us want to pick up guitars in the first place. And so, I sing and play bass in the band. So I said, well, why don't we get together and demo some ideas and have a go at working together? So we started writing together. We started putting songs together. It started to come really easy. And what happened then was we said, should we get a drummer? And so I knew I in my day job at the moment I work with like kids with disabilities and things. And there's a guy who used to come in as a support worker, and he had this reputation, looked like a big old bear. He's got the beard and everything. And a reputation of being a really good drummer. So I met him. I gave him a CD. I gave him actually, it was a time I ripped it off a CD, and I said, "Could have a listen to this, mate? And if you like it, do you fancy coming down and having a jam with me and the guitar player?" He's a kind of more of a hardcore drummer. He's very Metallica, very Machine Head, very very into the hardcore stuff. So I
Fast-paced
wasn't
double
sure.
bass.
Yeah, all that bit, and we love that. Both myself and Kev, the guitar player, we were in much not hard, but we were in like kind of hardcore bands. So we had to kind of let all that. We wanted to move away from that slightly. Not that we don't like it, but we wanted to kind of find that thing. When you first pick up a guitar and you start writing songs and all them great bands. So we didn't know whether Matt would buy into it, whether Matt would get what we were trying to do. So he got back to me. He phoned me the next day and said, "I love these tunes you're doing. They kind of catchy and they've got great hooks." And so we got in a room together, and that's it. That when we became Blitz, we just I stole the name from. There's the first single that my mum ever bought me. The 45 single there's a UK band called The Sweet, and they had a song called Ballroom Blitz. So we knocked the ballroom off. It looks great on a logo. Sold.
Everybody knows Ballroom Blitz.
Yeah. So we just thought it looked great on a shirt and looked great. We got looked great with the logo. So we just thought, that kind of fits what we're trying to do.
Awesome. So what made you want to become a musician? Like when you were a kid growing up, did you just like see a rock star and be like, I'm gonna be that guy?
I'll tell you what, the story goes like this. When I was 11 years old, I used to save my pocket money, and I used to be allowed to buy 45 singles because they were quite cheap back in the day. But I saved enough money to buy a full record, a full album. And the first full album I ever bought, I went in the UK, we used to have Woolworths. No, Woolworths. Yeah, you had Woolworths in the States.
Woolworths 5 and dime.
Yeah, I was flipping through the records, and I saw Kiss Destroyer, and they look so far out on that cover. They look just like they've walked out of a Marvel comic book, only darker. Really that
the
really dark
costumes
look.
and the makeup.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as an 11-year-old kid, I just remember having my mind just blown away. And my older brothers were like listening to Elvis Costello and that sort of shit, and I thought I really like the look of this band, and I went to buy it at the counter with my mum because I was 11, and the lady at the counter looked at the cover and she goes, "Do you really want this? And do you really and does he really want this?" And my mum said, "Yeah, this is what he wants." And she said, "Wouldn't he sooner have ABBA?" So she picked the album cover, the ABBA album cover up, and she was kind of trying to sell it me. And I was like, "No, I want this, And I remember getting home that day and putting Detroit Rock, the needle on the record, and listening to Detroit Rock City, and the whole theatrics of it. The guy getting in the car, and turning the radio on, and that theatrical beginning, and it just sold me. It sold me on the whole larger than life rock and roll. My brothers listened to, when my brothers went out, I would play their records, and they listened to a lot of Sabbath and Judas Priest, and a lot of the above bands like the Stones and the Beatles and things. So I grew up listening to a lot of cool music, really. But Kiss stole my heart really at 11. They made me want to pursue it. Yeah.
Right on. See, I've always been a fan of, all the bands, but I got to give credit to British heavy metal and British punk, for kind of paving the way. We wouldn't have My personal opinion for the timeline of rock and roll, Chuck Berry's the king of rock and roll. Elvis
Yeah,
is the
no
king
doubt.
of marketing rock and roll.
Yeah,
The
he's a good-looking guy,
Beatles,
Elvis.
the Beatles brought British influence, which in essence brought British heavy metal and our new wave of heavy metal for the United States.
You see, what I remember from that punk era, because I was a little bit young for it. My older brothers, they were buying into like the punk scene. I love the Stranglers. The Stranglers. When people talk about bass guitar, I always talk about Gene Jacques Burnell from the Stranglers. He's one of my all-time favorite bass players, as far as having that chunky big bass tone, you know.
Right.
And I love the Stranglers. Obviously, the Pistols did a lot to wake people up, which was just amazing. And
But
a little bit of the
unfortunately,
Damned and the
everyone
Clash.
knows the Pistols went way too mainstream. Everyone knows the Sex Pistols, and you forget bands like the Stranglers or the Buzzcocks. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, the Bulls.
Buzzcocks is
Some great
fucking
tunes.
awesome.
But what you also have to remember is, I remember still got a copy of "It's Alive" by the Ramones, and that was a great album. You know, that album that really, for me, just it encapsulated them real quick, hard, catchy songs. You know that. So all we did in the UK is we took bands like the Ramones and Iggy, early Iggy Pop, and a lot of those kind of bands. And well, Malcolm McLaren came along, and he just kind of repackaged it as punk or whatever. And you there's some great bands in the States and all like the Dead Boys, and you know the whole punk scene. What happened with it eventually? It got a little bit it got a little bit fake, like most things do. It got a little bit prepackaged, but yeah,
A lot of poser.
it was a great time to be a kid.
Hell yeah. So
Yeah,
who are your biggest influences?
as a band, as a band, I'd say the drummer is a massive hardcore kind of Metallica fan and blast beats and all that sort of stuff. Me, I'm kind of obviously I've still got the Kiss thing, not like I had when I was 11 years old, but it's in there. But I like Cheap Trick and a lot of the kind of I don't know what am I listening to a minute. I like also because I play bass. I like a lot of real funk stuff like Parliament, Funkadelic,
Oh yeah, George Clinton.
George Clinton.
Good shit
Yeah,
there.
I love all that. Stanley Clarke, he was the king of the slap bass, you know.
Yeah.
And I went through a period when I was younger and I started playing bass and getting into it. Everybody goes to that period when they're playing an instrument where you want to listen to the man who is the master, you know. So I started listening to like a lot of jazz, you know, Miles Davis, love Miles Davis and things like that. And I started to listen to Weather Report and you know Pino Palladino and a lot of jazz players and Stanley Clarke just to get the chops, you know, learn the chops. So you know when people talk about Flea from the Chili Peppers, he's a great bass player, but there was a lot of great funk bass players before Flea as well, you know. And there's a lot of I like a lot of jazz. As far as being a bass player is concerned, I know it's can be really boring shit to listen to, but I like a lot of stuff to do with jazz, to do with the musicality of it more than the actual. There's no real songs in there, and it you have to come to a point where, as a musician, you have to let that go and think this isn't about how fast I can play. This isn't about the scales. This is music's about passion and it's about songwriting and it's about having that little bit of something, you know, and that is something where there's not a lot of musicians who can walk away from that thing and think you, you know it's like being able to look under the engine of a car. You can see how it works and you know how the licks work, you know how it works, and it's all right. You've got to kind of totally take the engine to bits sometimes. And remember, this isn't about being a musician as far as like, you know, look at me. It's about being in a band that's got something to say and it's got a little bit of its own smell. I always say that. I always say when a band's got its own smell, whether, no matter who you are, whether you're punk, funk, metal, no matter what you are, whether you're Iron Maiden or, no matter who you are as a band, you've got to have that little, that little bit of smell, I mean, I love early rock and roll. We talk about.
And ladies and gentlemen out there, he ain't talking about opening the tour bus and the smell of 6 weeks on the road wafting out. That ain't the smell.
That ain't the smell. If that's the smell you've got, you need to change it. I always think, when I was a kid, my brother had this Little Richard record, and it was a live album, and it just blew me. This Little Richard live album, and it just sounded like some guy. He had a rocket inside him. This guy just sounded so over the top on it, and it's them kind of artists that I really genuinely, the ones with passion and fire in the belly still. And I think, they're out there. We're out there. We're trying,
They're still out there, but they're not the ones you're going to hear on the mainstream radio.
It's really sad how that's happening. The mainstream, they'll, you try and, you want, all the overproduced, auto-tuned, and rock and roll to me, and rock music and metal and rock, all this. It's about musicians, and it's about being in a room and writing them songs, and you're trying to get that through to the mainstream media now. I mean, especially in the UK, Radio 1, which is our big, our big schmaltzy record radio station.
Yeah, which is owned by BBC.
Yeah, it's so sanitized, and getting a track on there now, no matter how big you are in the rock world, I do this little rant on stage, and I talk about how, rock music, if you love it, it's in your DNA and it stays with you, and you borrow records out. It's like a virus. You pass it on to people, and they borrow you records, and it's just like a big virus, and it carries on, and it stays with you forever. You pass it on to your kids, and I think rock music was a really great way of growing up, meeting cool people, and nothing like it. It's just and only people who love it can save it, and then get out there. And I'm not pitching to sell an album, but kicking up a storm by Blitz is that if you want it. All I'm saying is people got to get out and support the music and show the love for it, because or it'll just, we'll just have Taylor Swift for the next 400 years. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, but we need rock and roll,
Well, I mean, at least Taylor writes her own songs. I mean, you got some of these stupid songs that take 6 people to write, and somehow it makes the #1 song.
Yeah, it's sometimes you get little stories, in rock and roll that you think, it give you hope, with the scene. When I went to see Kiss in the UK on their End of the Road tour, the last gig that they ever did over here at Manchester. I think it was Manchester. And the main support act on that night was a UK band called Skindred. Who kind of really mix it up, And watching Skindred, who are from, maybe a 2-hour car journey in that direction from me, watch that band on that big stage, and they've got a great front man. The singer Benji's such a great front man, and watch them on that big stage, doing it. And the next day they were on BBC TV in the morning, on morning TV, being interviewed. And I just thought, good on you, dude. Really, I love it when a band gets a break. It's what rock music needs. It's what we need.
Well, and a lot of it, I believe, is the labels trying to push an agenda.
it's never going to change, dude. I mean, it's right back. Like we say, we were talking about Elvis at the beginning, and old school rock and roll. Ever since then, I don't know if you've seen the Elvis movie, the new one, the new thing that they've just done. Elvis.
Yeah, I did.
I don't know what your thoughts on that one, but I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it had its moments of capturing the vibe. I thought it was
Well,
quite.
and see, here's my opinion on music today. Like I was saying, uh, uh, you guys wrote "Kicking Up a Storm" as a band,
Yeah,
whereas uh, what was the name of that song? 6 different people it took to write WAP.
yeah. And I don't want to scare you, dude, but it's not that long before AI comes along and just
It's already
writes
here.
everything.
It,
Writes everything.
it's here and it's been here.
Yeah. Huh.
Uh,
But I think
Actually,
it's so.
there's a radio station up in Iowa that I listened to. Well, I did listen to on the internet because it's actually a station I grew up listening to, and they played one of my favorite shows on Sunday night, the Dr. Demento show.
Yeah.
They are the first radio station to bring on an AI DJ. And the day they did that, I quit listening to their station.
Wow. We're heading towards a crazy world.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
because when I listen to the radio, 90% of me listening to the radio is who's the DJ and what do they have to say?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and an AI DJ is just not going to have that personality that a human's going to have.
Well, yeah. I mean, it, and it's going to get that way with music. Full stop. That somebody will write me a song about a dog taking a bath, and it'll do a song about a dog taking a bath. They'll say, I don't know. Perhaps that's what humans want. I don't know. It's not what I
Hey,
want.
hey, I'm pretty sure it's already out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so let me
You've
ask
got
you
to.
this: if you could sit down with anyone throughout history and pick their brain over dinner, who would you want to talk to?
Is this music or just
This
a
is
guy?
anyone throughout history.
Oh, that's a tough one because there's the entertainment business, the music business, and there's like I don't know,
I mean, you got
green guys.
politicians, you got peasants,
Oh,
you got
I don't want any.
scientists.
I don't want any politicians. They they've all shit the bed for me. I don't know. Who would I sit down? Two people. Um, there's a British guy, not because he's British, because my second one's an American, but there's a British guy called Alan Moore. Have you ever heard of Alan Moore? He's
I don't think so.
Alan Moore he's kind of famous for writing lots of like graphic novels and things. He wrote a movie. Well, he wrote the book. They made the movie of a film called Watchmen
Okay.
ages ago, and he's a pretty out there character. And anyway, Alan Moore is one, and the other guy who I just can't get enough of is Eddie Murphy. I think Eddie Murphy is an interesting guy. I, I listen to. I listen. I know. I listen to. I can't stop. I've got this thing on YouTube. I'm always checking. Listening to interviews with, especially now because he's kind of a lot cooler now as well. He don't play the part as well. He's kind of. I think he's aged. He's a smart guy, and it reminds me when I used to watch Raw. Well, I watched the Raw. The stand up thing he did. So
Yeah.
I love stand up. Stand up's one of those things. If you're a front man in a band, because let's look at it. Back in the day, like David Lee Roth, basically, he was a stand-up guy, wasn't he? I
Yeah,
love David Lee. You know what?
he
And
was a
again,
performer. He was a showman.
yeah. Do you know everybody grumbles about David Lee, and they'll say David Lee Roth, and they'll say, "Well, he's a little pitchy in his voices." That's never. Nobody ever went to a Van Halen show for to listen to opera, did they?
No,
Everybody
no.
went to see David Lee Roth get crazy and get an audience up on the feet. And
And to hear Eddie and Alex and
yeah, that
Michael
chemistry, man.
Anthony.
Yeah, I love Van Halen. And yeah, the stand up thing I find fascinating. You know, like the people who, because if you're a front man, it's kind of a similar thing. You know, you're kind of up there and you've got to carry. You know, you're kind of selling it. You're the front guy, and I always think to be a stand up guy on that stage on your own, the spotlight on you, and you know, right, entertain me. That must give you some serious nerves. You know.
Right? Yeah, because you ain't got a band behind you back. There ain't no one
No,
out there. And if you ain't funny,
they ain't gonna let you know. So it's I find stand up, the psychology of stand up, you know, I think it's fascinating, really, really fascinating. You know, the getting up on a stage and how they prepare for it and how they, you know, it's hard work.
so do you guys tour around the UK a lot?
We are. We start this Thursday in the UK. We're out in Newcastle and then Edinburgh and then up to Scotland, which is right at the other end of the. It's like 6 hour, 7 hour drive from where we are.
Okay.
We're out with a UK band called the Gypsy Pistoleros, and we're really good friends. You know, we did some shows together. We just got on really well. So we're going to be doing some shows with them, and we were out last when were we on Sunday. Was it Sunday? No, on Saturday we were in a place called Rotherham in the UK and Leeds and Birmingham. We're all over. We play all over.
Okay. Outside of the UK, other parts of Europe?
Well, we're working on that. We're working on. It's not as easy as it used to be, you know, because now we've
Right.
got all this. Not meaning to be political, but we've got all this. You know, we're not in Europe anymore, so you have to have all these visas. And we'd love to get to the States one day. We'd love to do that, and if it's ever going to be possible, um,
Well, I'll
we'll
tell you
see.
what,
We'll see.
if you ever get to the States, hit us up. We got a network of people across the country. Raven Black calls it the Rockstar Bed and Breakfast. Basically, people that we vet and background check to make sure we ain't sending you with Joe Crazy or Sally Superfan that's got an extra room or two that'll let a band stay, do their laundry, get a home cooked meal.
That's really cool, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd
all
be
the
great. That would
feelings
be
of
great.
home while on the road. And it saves
And
independent bands a lot of money.
and there's only three of us, so there you go.
Right on.
Just three. We're cheap. We're a cheap act. There's only three of us. Um, yeah, we'd love to do that. We'd love to go over there. We'd love to do that. And we when we got working with Dave Tedder, he's given us a bit more reach. You know, he's put their album out on a lot more platforms, and he's done a great job of promoting us as well over there. So
Yeah,
you know,
Dave is awesome.
he's a great guy. And do you know when you're putting it when you're putting an album together, you have to go through all that. Oh, you know, you have to sort out the production side and blah blah. You know, and he's always, you know, to be fair to Dave, you know, he's always been there for us. He's been great.
Right on. So outside of music, what other what hobbies do you have?
Okay, I do a lot of writing. I'm in the process. I don't know if you've ever seen our. There's a connection. Our artwork that we have in the albums and things. We've got a guy called Dave Hurst who does all our crazy artwork, and I work quite closely with him, and we're putting together a graphic novel, and it's called The Magic 8-Ball. And it's basically, you know, the old 8-ball toy, you shake it and you ask it a question.
Yeah.
And it gives you like an answer. So the idea is it's 8 short stories, and they're all about fate and how it can lead to, let's just say, prosperous futures, or it can lead to you meeting the love of your life or the hate of your life, or you can turn a corner and you can do a scratch card and be and win the millions. It's 8 stories of fate and how it affects all our lives, and it's some of it all different. There's a science fiction story, there's a horror story, there's a bit of a romance type thing, and there's some just warped, twisted tales. And I'm working on it as a graphic novel, so it's illustrated as well. So I'm working on that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things to do. So I love writing, and what else do I do? I do the normal things, really. Walk the dog, keep the wife happy, really.
Okay. So
Occasionally,
where can we find you guys on social media? Feel free to plug yourself.
you can find Blitz Rock Band UK on Facebook. We've also got a page that's a little bit more personal called Blitz Crew, where we put like videos up, and I'll put stuff about my writing. I do a little bit of a podcast thing on there as well, called Welcome to the Stooniverse.
Okay.
It's just talking about aliens and
Hey, we like
comic
aliens.
books. Yeah, I love all that stuff. I just love a good mystery. I like a good
Right?
mystery.
Yeah.
The old Roswell thing, and who
Hey,
knows what it is, whether it's just secret military stuff we're not meant to see, or whether it's quote little green men. But I've always kind of found all that kind of stuff interesting. I've got my little
yeah.
tin foil hat. Yeah.
I know a few people that actually have worn the tinfoil hat. Personally, I say if they're gonna come get me, go for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah. More fool them if they're going to come
and
and get us. Yeah.
and you can't say with all that big ass galaxy out there that we are the only life.
Yeah. The idea I favor is we live in a simulation type of thing. We live in our own personal simulation. For some reason, we don't understand. And then at the end of it, when whatever happens is whatever happens, maybe we go on to, I don't know, maybe with food for aliens. I don't know.
Oh,
It's just interesting stuff. It's good to have a little bit of escapism.
yeah.
Life can get pretty heavy at the minute in the real world.
It's good to
So
have things that make you ask questions.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. There's
But
yeah, sorry.
oh no, go ahead, man.
Uh, the alien things that I have. I don't know. So I shouldn't really say this. The other two in the band will be now holding their head in their hands and saying, "What is he saying?" But I've had a couple of occasions where I've seen things in the sky, and yeah, it's kind of yeah. I was going to work one morning. I was walking to work, and I saw these two things, and they were like flying at like a right angle, really slow and quiet, and it was
Yeah.
the sun. The sun was kind of shining off these things. They weren't like saucer shaped. They were like, I can't really explain the shape. The shape was kind of like you got one of the metal cigar holders and you just twisted it a bit, and it looked crazy. It looked like
Okay.
it should have just looked like it was aerodynamically not designed to fly. And I just stood looking at this thing, and I thought, I hope somebody else is going to see this, because it's one of those things you. And a woman was walking down the street, and I was, "Do you see what I'm seeing?" And she was saying, "Yeah." And it was before. This was so long ago. It was before phones had cameras on.
Okay.
But yeah, and that was pretty mind blowing, you know. And I what was it, you know? What is
Hey,
that? What are these things?
dude,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm in the same boat. I believe it was Ozfest 2004, and it's on YouTube. We're leaving the venue and we look up and everyone's looking up, and sure as shit, there's something weird lights floating around in the sky and stuff. And yeah, if you ever get bored, Google UFO sighting at Ozfest.
Yeah, well, I'll do that. Yeah. Yeah. It certainly makes you wonder. Well,
It
they were there to see the Oz. They were there to see Ozzy. That's what they were there for.
probably
We're having a
maybe
good
hey
time.
maybe they were trying to bring them back home.
Yeah.
But all right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a blast sitting here chatting with Stuart, and we're definitely going to talk to him again. Check out Blitz. Uh, album songs called "Kicking Up a Storm." That's the name of the album too, right?
Yeah, the album's called Kicking Up a Storm. It's available everywhere. It's 10 tracks. It's if you like good time rock and roll, if you like hardcore, it's a mixture of everything, you know. You'll find there's something for everybody. It's true. There's 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 something for every. If you love rock music and rock and roll, give it a go. Kicking Up a Storm, Vanity Music, Shock Records. Check it out.
Yeah, we're going through the
I think
track list. We're gonna have to listen to Freddie Said. What did Freddie say?
Well, what I want you and your listeners to do is to listen to Freddie Said, and I want you to go on YouTube and check the video out.
All right.
It's a homage. It's dedicated to Freddie Mercury. We're big Queen fans. You know
Okay.
the band Queen, a lot, especially the early stuff. So we wrote this song, and it's dedicated to Freddie Mercury. It's called Freddie Said, and we did like a little bit of a homage. We did a little bit of a video that anyway. Check it out. The video we did,
Ooh.
yeah, we filmed it with a guy called Jay Hillier, who did a lot of work with Black Star Riders and Wayward Sons, and
Okay.
he's got a good rep, and it's we had a great time doing it, and we all adopted a different Freddy kind of costume. And anyway, if you check it out, it's really great fun. It's called Freddie Said.
Yeah, and I just remembered the most important question I always ask people.
Yeah.
If you were stuck on an abandoned or a deserted island, you can only have two albums to listen to. What two albums would you take with you?
Um, Tough one.
Hey, be
Probably.
glad I moved it to two albums instead of just one.
What albums would I definitely be listening to? Tom Petty, You're Gonna Get It. Album number one. I love Tom Petty, early Tom Petty.
Hell yeah.
Tom Petty, You're Gonna Get It, because I've got a lot of teenage memories tied up in that album. Maybe then, I don't know. Maybe Sign of the Times, Prince. I like Prince.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big Prince. Yeah, I like a lot of Prince stuff. I think as a musician as well, man, he could write a song, he could play a guitar, he could, you know,
He
he could do the works.
yeah, he was a hell of a musician.
He's my favorite guitar player by far. Yeah,
I'd
definitely.
I'd put him in the top five greatest guitarists of all time.
God, he's got such good feel, man. He's got such good feel with that guitar.
And
Yeah, sad day. I like David. It was a sad day. I think it's the same year David Bowie died, didn't he? You know, crazy.
yeah, and it's kind of funny because I got another buddy I talked to out in LA, guy by the name of Peter Sermon, and we're talking one day on a video chat, and he's walking through his studio, and I see a very distinctive guitar hanging in his collection, and it just so happened to be the one that Prince used during the Super Bowl performance. And I said,
My God.
you need to stop right there and tell me where you got that and how you came, why,
Yeah.
how.
How
And
much? How much? I'd get that insured. Get that
uh
guitar insured.
no, he says he stayed at Paisley Park for a while and Prince gave it to him. I'm like, dude, that's, oh my God.
Yeah, this is it. When you think about, rock and roll and Prince and Bowie and the real characters, I and who had the knack of writing really good music and being cool and just having something different. I hope them days aren't over. I just really hope, that rock and roll.
I'll tell you what right now, doing what we do with the independent bands, the glory days of rock and roll, I don't think they're over. I think
Thank you.
there's I think
Yeah,
there's still a lot of bands out there with a lot of things to say. You guys
God,
included.
we do. You got to do this because you love it. That's the main thing. You got to do it because you love it, and then everything else is just icing on the cake.
Pretty much. Hey, I'm the one DJ in the world that pays to do this.
Yeah, it's true. You know you write songs and you get together. I switch my phone on and Kev's messaging me tonight when I got in. We've got this thing where I've got this idea for a song, and he'll send a demo, and he said, "Have you got anything for it?" Because the way we work songs, we send each other songs, all three of us, then we get in a room and we play with the arrangement and we play with it. But it all starts with somebody will have an idea. And he
Right.
sends an idea, and I basically played the idea on his phone on my laptop and sang. I had like a melody straight. I've got something that'll fit really cool for that. And I sang into my phone while his track was playing, and I sent it him. Anyway,
That,
and we wrote like 90% of the song that way.
right on. Hey, I know bands that, they send their stuff in. Drummer lives in Chicago, a guitarist lives in Las Vegas, the singer lives in New Hampshire, and they just send all of their stuff to a mixing guy in Chicago and put it together that way. It's
Yeah,
like, dude, that's awesome.
we're pretty lucky because we we don't live that far away from each other. We're pretty close, and that
Right.
wasn't intent. That was totally accidental.
That's always a
It's just
good
the thing.
thing.
Yeah, the thing where Kev worked in a rehearsal room. We were both in bands. We were both kind of we were getting we were getting a little bit fed up with being angry all the time in the music. I said, I want to write stuff that's you know just not angry all the time. The world's an angry place at the minute, and I just want to write good. I want to write good rock and roll.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of people who do angry really, really well. And it's true. There's some people are fantastic at it. You got people like Kill Switch Engage. You've
Slipknot.
got Slipknot. These people have just took it to the level. You can't angry these people.
Right.
So you got to look for your own. You got to look for your own turf. Yeah.
Well,
So
growing up in Iowa, I understand Slipknot's anger.
yeah, exactly. It's real. This is the thing. If you're gonna do that sort of music, it's got to be real. We went through a period where we were playing with some bands who should this is not a slag, but you'd be playing with some bands and you do a sound check and they get on stage. The singer would get on stage and he'd go, and then in between that he'd say, "Could I have a little more through my monitor, darling, because I can't find it." No, I mean this had no reflection on his real personality.
Right. Well,
He sounded like Satan, but spoke like Prince Charles.
that's like Jim Carrey, funniest guy in the world. Loves hardcore death metal like Cannibal Corpse and shit like that.
Yeah, it's a good release, and them bands do it. You can't. Yeah, there's so many good bands who do that stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
But All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a blast hanging out with Stuart. We've been sitting here bullshitting for almost an hour now.
Yeah, I loved it.
Uh, and we'll definitely be talking to him again. I appreciate everyone out there hanging out with us today. Tune in asgardradio.org, where the gods go to rock. And you mortals, you're all welcome. Thank you for hanging out with us, Stuart.
Thank you for having me, man.
All right.